Chancellor Huck, Mr. Danish Reyes, distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen. There are a lot of things that brings us together as we are linked by common goals, common cause, and common commitment, and bonded by shared history, shared heritage, shared background, and shared belief. There are a lot that unite us, there are little that divide us. Our bonds are stronger than the differences that sometimes drive us apart. And thank you for that kind introduction. As someone who considers himself an Edupreneur, it is an honor to be and speak with you, my fellow Edupreneurs, today. When Danish Reyes extended the invitation explaining the focus and the purpose of this event and who the primary participant would be, I accepted without hesitation. As you all know even better than I, the educational needs of the Muslims and other minorities in India were critical before the pandemic struck. And they are even more so today. I thank Danish Reyes for his leadership in recognizing the achievements and contributions of minorities and the need to provide assistance to enable them to succeed. I also thank all of you, exceptional Edupreneurs who are making a meaningful difference in this regard, who will be addressing this conference, for allowing me to share the stage with you. It is truly humbling. Let me acknowledge especially Chancellor Huck for the University of Science and Technology, who is co-hosting this event. Chancellor Huck is a visionary educational entrepreneur. I share a deep bond with him. I'm sure all of you know that both of us are Alligerian and come from humble beginning. We are the seeds from the Aligarh family tree. I had a chance to address the faculty, staff, and students from his exemplary institution in February 2019. I enjoyed very much his hospitality, his warm welcome. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the other three outstanding hosts of the event: the Shaheen Group of institutions and the Al-Amin Mission and Tarbiyah Cambridge International School. Each of these Edupreneur schools and all of you Edupreneurs in attendance today are difference makers. The difference you are making is pivotal to the future of India and the world. That is why I have titled my remarks, Edupreneurs, Difference Maker for Today and Tomorrow. I'll present my remarks in 5 parts. Part 1, the need for Edupreneurship. Part 2, the entrepreneur and Edupreneur. Part 3, education and Edupreneurship. Part 4, an Edupreneurial journey. And Part 5, developing Edupreneurs. So let me begin with the Part 1, the need for Edupreneurship. In talking about the need of Edupreneurship to those of you in this audience, I feel like I am preaching to the choir. You know the statistics as well as I do, and I'm sure you do the statistics better than I do. Nevertheless, I believe it is important to review a few of the facts and background to ensure a shared understanding of why the educational empowerment of the Muslims and other minorities remain such a critical need in 2022. Most of you are undoubtedly familiar with the Sacred Committee reports of 2006, which disclose a development deficit for Muslims and minorities in many areas and resulted in the creation of an across-the-board program for the development of minorities. Much has been done to address those developmental needs since the release of the committee report. Unfortunately, much remains to be done. Here are some of the facts. The 2011 census revealed that 42.7% of Muslims were illiterate compared to national average of the entire population of India of 36.9%. A study released by the U.S.-India Policy Institute at the end of 2013 states, since 2006, and I quote, the literacy level and the quantum of improvement for Muslims are modest compared to other populations. The same study showed that only 11% of Muslims in India pursue higher education compared to national average of approximately 19%. And that participation in the general category of Muslims in higher education had actually declined by 1.5% for the period studied. These are poor findings that frame the critical nature of the need for all Muslims. The worst for females. The 2011 census showed the literacy rate for Muslim women were 52% compared to 65.46% for all Indian women. In addition, various other studies in the past decade have shown females constitute a minority in higher education in India. Only 14% of business establishments are run by women. India ranked 49th out of 54 countries in support provided to female entrepreneurs in the MasterCard Index Survey. The MasterCard report observed, and I quote, there is a significant potential to harness the untapped potential of women's entrepreneurship in India. That's a quick overview of the tale of the tape for education and opportunity for Muslims, females, and minorities in India. Let me say this. It is not a good tale, but it tells the story why the need for what you edupreneurs are doing to promote the education and socio-economic advancement for those who are socially and economically disadvantaged is so important. Part 2, the entrepreneur and the edupreneurs. That said, let me turn my attention to the edupreneurs and share my perspective on the connection between the edupreneurs and the entrepreneurs, starting by defining an entrepreneur. What and who is an entrepreneur? There are various definitions. The one that appeals to most to me is the entrepreneur is the person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. I think that definition, I like that definition because it emphasizes any enterprise and extend the definition beyond just the business owner. A person can be entrepreneur in any type of organization as long as he or she is willing to step up to the plate and take a leadership role to shape the direction of the enterprise or the portion which he or she controls. Entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship come in all shapes and sizes. In that regard, let me share a definition of entrepreneurship that was provided by Professor Howard Stevenson of the Harvard Business School almost 40 years ago. Professor Stevenson said, and I quote, Entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled. End of quotation. In other words, entrepreneurs are not constrained in their thinking. I'll combine these two definitions into my own definition of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are dreamers who dare. They are seekers who seize the moment and take calculated risks to create the enterprises and jobs of the future. Taking it one step further, entrepreneur leaders do the right thing. As the old American saying goes, managers do things right, leaders do the right thing. Now let me look at the connection between entrepreneurs and edupreneurs. Edupreneurs are entrepreneurs of a special type. If you search the internet, there are a range of definitions of edupreneurs. The majority of them focus on developing educational programs or educational businesses to make money and doing things such as creative learning programs, educational technology, and educational software. In my opinion, these definitions are far too narrow in scope. Here's a broader view and definition. The edupreneur is an entrepreneur who uses and applies her or his education to develop innovative initiatives that are empowering and difference-making in anyone's life, field, discipline, or industry. The edupreneurs can be an educator, a person working at home, or a person starting, owning, or working in science, technology, the arts, the humanities, and the list could go on and on. I will draw upon my own personal experience later in this talk to provide an example of that. Before doing so, let me focus on education and edupreneurship. So let me talk about part 3, education and edupreneurship. As I have said, those of you in this audience are edupreneurs. In my opinion, you have a pivotal role and crucial contribution to make to ensure forward progress for the citizens of this nation and the future of India and the world. There are institutional roles and individual roles that you must play and are playing to accomplish this. The institutional roles are shaping studies, shaping students, and shaping society. Too often, schools of education shape the study by developing curriculum which are instructor-driven rather than driven by what the marketplace needs or requires. Shape students using an internally centered model, emphasizing administrative concern and institutional growth rather than employing a student-centered model. And they neglect or fall short in assuming their responsibilities for shaping society. You edupreneurial institutions stand in stark contrast to those institutions. You were founded to shape students, shape studies, and a society in a manner that's responsive to the needs of those who have been ignored. And you exist to help them develop in order to succeed personally and to engage civically in making the society a fairer and a better place. As edupreneur institution, you understand the role that you play in facilitating and promoting the civic engagement of your administration, your staff, faculty, and students, both on campus and elsewhere, now and in the future. The best definition of civic engagement that I have seen comes from a collection of reading titled Civic Responsibilities in Higher Education. That definition states, civic engagement means working to make a difference in civic life of our communities and developing the combination of knowledge, skills, values, and motivation to make that difference. It means promoting the quality of life in a community through both political and non-political process. This brings me to some of the individual roles that I believe you edupreneurs are and should be playing. In my opinion, in addition to the educator role, there should be include, but not be limited to, role model, innovator, problem solver, change agent, and team player. Let me elaborate on the role of role model. One of the limiting factors for many Muslims and other minorities is there are a few within their peer groups whom they can look to as a positive examples. As you know, people learn through observation, not conversation. Recognizing this, a teacher, no matter whether they're sitting in the classroom or somewhere else, can act in ways that are worthy of emulation. I'm sure you could add other roles based upon your experience. I want to add one to mine based upon my own experience, that is the development of the future edupreneurs. Let me talk about the part 4, an edupreneurial journey. As I stated at the outset of my talk, I consider myself an edupreneur. Let me explain why I feel that way. There has been considerable amount of research that shows that those who do well or excel have developed not only the minimum technical knowledge of skills acquired in an area, they have also developed the character that is required to apply and use those skills to continue to learn in order to become the best that they can be and to work hard and persist in the face of difficult obstacles in order to achieve their goals. I went to school at Aligarh Muslim University. Let me say this, what's best in me, I owe it to AMU. Aligarh not only gave me great education, it also helped shape those values, attitudes, and beliefs that were fundamental to who I was to become and what I was to achieve. In my opinion, those in the weaker section, Muslims and other minorities, deserve and need the same advantage and perspective that I was provided by the Aligarh Muslim University. This means the educator's role in contributing to the advancement of those individuals in their institution should be broad, one of striving to develop the whole person by building knowledge, skills, abilities, and disposition, not a narrow one of transmitting knowledge only. I say this because Aligarh enabled and empowered me for my journey to become both an entrepreneur and edupreneur. Let me highlight a few things that are most relevant to its edupreneurial aspect. I crossed the Atlantic Ocean to the United States of America to pursue the American dream. I was able to achieve it in large part due to the solid foundation and the values instilled and infused in me by AMU. But in my heart of hearts, I always knew that I wanted to take my education and become an entrepreneur. There was no such term at that time as edupreneurs back in those days, but that is what I became. I left the academic world and worked for 2 information technology firms to get the experience that I needed to launch my own venture. Then in 1994, I purchased an IT company, QSL Group Incorporated, in Washington, D.C. for $45,000 a year. Within 13 years, along with my key management team, we took that from a workforce of 1 employee, that's me, to more than 3,000 employees and approximately $300 million in revenue. That was an excellent trajectory for the business. I had a role to play in that business. But when people ask me how I became successful, I respond, that was not me, but we who made it happen. My team of talented managers were central to everything. So, success in business is a team sport. That concept of teamwork was something that I had learned in my education at Aligarh Muslim University. Another thing that I learned was a commitment to innovation and excellence. Because of this, I had the company develop a distinctive core competence, blending engineering, science, information technology, and made performance as promise not only our corporate motto, but how we did business. That commitment paid off. In 2007, I sold my company to Pro System. That sale allowed me to establish a private foundation that supports educational, cultural, and artistic causes in the United States, here in India, and around the world. That was my journey. Now I'm working diligently in the second phase of my edupreneurship, which is the philanthropic engagement. A central principle of that philanthropy is to give people a hand up so they can start and plot their own journey. And I can tell you in all candor that my engagement in these charitable, as I call them, investment areas, is the most personally rewarding time of my life. Let me talk about part 5, developing edupreneurs. That's my edupreneur journey in a nutshell. In this last part of my presentation, I want to talk briefly about your role in helping develop the edupreneurs of tomorrow for their journey. Central to that development is empowerment. That empowerment can come in any number of ways, but I think the key ingredients are what I call the 3 E's. Those E's are education, enlightenment, and elevation. Education is easily understandable. Let me elaborate on the concept of enlightenment. Enlightenment is helping the Muslims or other minority individual gain insight about her or himself and the community, country, and the world in which he or she lives. It builds tolerance, respect, and appreciation for our shared humanity. Elevation is enabling the Muslims and minority individuals who has been educated and enlightened to raise her or his sights, to realize that anything is possible, to understand that education and employment are steps in the journey. As those of you who are edupreneurs know, that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I know that, you know that, you all have demonstrated the capacity to make a difference. You are the difference maker. That is why I ask you to continue to provide those minorities in need with a hand up through your good work in your institution. My wife Debbie and I have supported the development and building of a management complex at Aligarh Muslim University, which has an innovation and entrepreneurship center. At the dedication ceremony in the complex, and I said, while the bricks and mortars are important, far more significant is who will be in and what will go on in this setting. It will be a place for sharing of information and imparting a development of knowledge. It will be space where faculty and students can collaborate on innovative projects. It will be educational empowerment zone. Your institution are also empowerment zone, where you're collaborating with the students to make a difference in their lives. Professor Clinton Christensen of Harvard Business School has stated, and I quote, "I have concluded that the metrics by which God will assess my life is not the money, but the individual people whose lives I have touched." He tells his MBA students, do not worry about the individual prominence you have achieved, worry about how many individuals you have helped to become better people. Mahatma Gandhi famously says, be the change you wish to see in the world. You edupreneurs are that change. You difference makers of today are preparing the difference makers of tomorrow. You are touching so many lives of those who will touch the lives of so many others. For that I say, thank you and God bless you. I have appreciated the time I have spent with you, my fellow edupreneurs, and look forward to listening and learning from the other edupreneurs at this most important conference. So thank you. Please keep up your good work and good luck as you continue your noble and transformative work on your journey as an entrepreneur leader. Let me close my remark by saying, when I look back the time we spent together, the miles we have traveled together, the memory that we have cherished together, I always think of you. God bless you all, and thank you.